Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
I know I'm getting ready for some snow and ice, but
yeah now all of a sudden it's going to be ice apocalypse, right?
Yeah, it's coming though. We're supposed to get, I think, 3 to 8 inches. Could be more, so.
I'm embracing it.
I'm good.
I'm embracing it. I've convinced Grammy to come spend some time with us here. So I'm mad cleaning and running errands and all that stuff. But we're going to pamper Grammy. We're going to give her little face masks and everything. So we're going to make the most. I have a whole house generator. So if we lose power, I'm good. If we lose internet, it's going to be like the Hunger Games around here. We're going to end up killing each other.
No, we're charging iPads and everything right now.
Yeah, you gotta. So anyways, we want to say thank you to Tina for the PayPal donation. We really appreciate that. Also want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Too Cool T-Shirt Quilts. You look behind me on YouTube, it's kind of in the blue light, but you can see just one small example of her beautiful work. Go to toocooltshirtquilts.com/pretty lies and alibis. Check them out.
Right there. Yeah.
What? Oh, yep. There's yours. It looks a little better in your light.
Yep.
And also, we want to thank Crescia Easton for the last batch of bracelets. I'm going to try to show this on YouTube. So we have one that says Justice for JJ and Tylee. I have both on, but she's actually got some new ones made that have Charles's name. And I think she had mentioned to me the next batch, maybe she's going to try to include Tammy's name on there. And so if you guys want a bracelet, they're $10. You can go to her Venmo. It's at Crescia, KRESHAGOODWIN. Or if you want a PayPal, you can go to @Difficult Research. And it's just the way it sounds, Difficult Research. So they're $10 and you can show your support. And they're going to use that money to further this cause. And they're doing a lot of good work over there. She is with her YouTube channel.
Yep.
So you've started pouring through the Gabby Petito document that was released by the Moab Police Department, right?
Yeah, it was the investigative report. The other police department, it was just doing a investigative report, making sure everything was handled properly. So.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to get into this. So the initial complaint was made on September 21st by attorney Tanya Reeves. A follow-up complaint was made again on October 1st by her again.
Yeah.
Captain Brandon Ratcliffe from the Price City Police Department was asked to do an investigation on September 27th by Chief Brett Edge and Assistant Chief Braden Palmer. The investigation was done in order to provide information into the details of the investigation when they pulled them over there on the side of the road and to see if it was handled correctly. So in the investigation review, Captain Ratcliffe states that there are many what ifs that have been presented, including Would Gabby be alive today if the case was handled differently? He states that this is just impossible to answer that question. And the report says, my job is to provide information into the details of the investigation and if it was handled appropriately.
So I think right out of the get-go, he makes that, I can't say whether that things would have changed, but he's just in there to get information and to say, okay, they followed the law. They didn't follow the law. Was it handled correctly? Was it not handled correctly? So.
Right. And I think the big thing, and I haven't read through, so I don't know if this is even addressed, is that the officers didn't have the full story. They did not have that second call relayed to them that he was seen hitting her. Is that right? Or am I wrong in that?
Well, it seems they thought there was only one call, but there was actually two different reports. One said that Brian was seen slapping Gabby. The other one was the 911 call in. So it was two different calls, and they didn't realize that till later on.
Right. And I think that this report really should be completely different had that 911 call by the second caller been relayed to these officers, because essentially what I read is they're saying Gabby was the aggressor and she should have been arrested.
Yeah, by Brian's statements and Gabby's statements, that's what he concludes here. But there's several things, and he points out, and I don't know if you remember this, but in the video, she talks about her cheek being burned because he grabbed her by the face so hard.
Mm-hmm.
That they never come back and address that with her. They take pictures of Brian and all that stuff, but they never come back to Gabby to address any of that. They focus on the swerving and the driving deal with the van. So he points out that they never go back and mention that at all to Gabby.
Right, which is a big deal, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just a lot of miscommunication that really would have changed this report completely, in my opinion. So it's important to share that Captain Radcliffe states, I've spent many months reviewing this case, and I have been provided the luxury of being able to pause, rewind, fast forward, and take notes, etc. This same luxury is not afforded in the grand majority of police investigations. The officers in this case had about 75 minutes, while I've had an unlimited amount of time. And while I have the reports and recordings from this case, I will not pretend to know that I have the same perception the officers had while investigating the case.
And I do think that's true in any situation where police are involved. You have to make a decision rather quickly and kind of understand. And I mean, I agree. He's had time to go back and rewind footage and watch footage and can read a little more into it. So, I mean, I agree with that they have to make a decision rather quickly.
Yeah.
And we know Brian's statements. Looking back now, we can see that he was just full of it, basically.
Right.
But they're having to make a decision on that. And then in Gabby's defense, she's been in an abusive situation. She's making excuses because that's what happens in domestic violence situations. So you put all that together, and
but I mean, them not to revisit when she says that he put hands on her and scratched her face, like, to me, they can take this report and throw it in the gutter, because you're not dealing with the facts of this case. To me, it still seems very one-sided against Gabby, which, there's a lot of things that should have happened. And all right, so let's get into it, because I could just sit here.
And we've got a couple more episodes on this because there's a good bit to dig into. So we'll address some of that later too. So officer on the scene was Officer Pratt. He had worked with the Moab Police Department intermittently since July of 2018. This included part-time employment and full-time employment. He returned full-time with Moab in December of 2020. He has approximately 16 years of law enforcement experience. At the time of this incident, he was acting as field training officer for Officer Robbins. So Officer Robbins was the younger officer here. Robbins was hired on May of 2021 with Moab City Police Department, and had no prior law enforcement experience. At the time of this incident, Robbins was on the final phase of his field training program. So he's a greenhorn. He's a young officer. So the review begins with a synopsis that includes a breakdown of the whole incident. So it goes through the whole breakdown footage of all the video and everything that happened. The initial call to dispatch action, the Moonflower Community Co-op action, the traffic stop, statements from both Brian and Gabby, the written and verbal witness statements, and the officer action. So it breaks all that down. Robbins is the investigating officer in this case, and he was assisted by Officer Pratt. The review states that it was obvious from the footage that Officer Pratt was more experienced than Officer Robbins, and Pratt was taking an active role in guiding Robbins through the investigation. At the end of the investigation, there was another call came through, and I thought this was very important. Officer Pratt asked Officer Robbins if he, meaning Officer Robbins, would feel more comfortable taking the call that just came out, leaving Officer Pratt to conclude this investigation. So Pratt was going to let Robbins go to another call, but then in the end, ultimately, it was decided for Robbins would conclude this case, and Officer Pratt left the scene. That was big because during the investigation, Officer Pratt spoke to the witness, Brian and Gabby, to gather the facts of the case. Officer Robbins spoke with Brian and Gabby and took photographs of Brian's injuries and both of their driver's license. So the one had did a little more investigative stuff than the other. So
yeah,
it was.
This is going to get my blood pressure up. I can tell. It's going to make me just mad.
Yeah. So Officer Robbins advised Gabby that she was not going to be getting charged with anything, but stated he had to separate her and Brian for the night. Officer Robbins tells Brian the same thing, stating that since Gabby did not intend to hurt him, technically speaking, it does not fit the letter of the code, so he was not charging Gabby with domestic violence assault. And we'll see throughout later on down in the document, it'll tell you what the initial, what they finally wrote down, what it was. I'm going to go ahead and say it. So the officer says one of the reasons why they didn't arrest Gabby was they felt it would cause more problems for her with Brian, because he could then throw it up in her face that he had to pay money to get her out of jail. So they thought it would cause more problems for her in the end if she was arrested.
But then you think about it, if she had to call her mom and dad because she had been arrested. I mean, I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, but maybe that, and like the report said, there's a lot of what ifs. What if they had got the second 911 call where he's seen as the aggressor? What if they had come back and asked Gabby, so he did put hands on you? There's a lot of what ifs. And it just, man, I feel like this could have been, we might not be where we are today if this was handled appropriately. Yeah.
But if you remember right, when they asked her about that, about him putting his hands on her, she said, I did hit him first, because she's in that situation and she's defending him. Because if you research, and we do a lot of research on domestic violence, that's part of it, is you're going to make an excuse of why you were hit.
Right.
So,
and that's why it's crucial for people that are dealing with the community to have training appropriately to recognize when somebody is a battered person or in an abusive relationship. That's one of the big signs. It was my fault. I did it. And that's what I think a big part of what was missing in this whole thing too.
Yeah. And we'll see coming out of this, that's one of the recommendations, is better training for domestic violence calls. They're going to try to put a domestic violence investigator, like I lost my wording, but
somebody who specializes in those
exactly, kind of specialize and trained in DV to cover these cases and to help.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, because that's got to be number one, because I'm sure a lot of calls they get are domestic violence related. If
Yeah.
you can't read between the lines and see those nonverbal signs of whether a man or woman's being abused, then, you know, you're going to have a lot of situations like this where eventually one of them gets murdered.
Yeah. And honestly, I have a lot of friends who are police officers, and they'll tell you right quick that they dread going to a DV call because
Yeah.
it's so unpredictable.
And it's a lot of a he said, she said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's go through the formal complaints from attorney Tanya Reeves. And number one, an officer discussed his wife's private medical diagnosis and prescribed medication with Brian Laundrie while transporting him to the police station, which was captured on body cam and subsequently released without redaction. And I said from that moment, that dude's going to be sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
I mean, now you don't know at the time this is going to explode like it does, but so Ratcliffe states that at no point during their discussion did Officer Robbins specifically disclose a medical diagnosis or prescribe medication that his wife was on. And there was nowhere in the Moab City Police policy where it specifies what constitutes as personal information and where the line is drawn on what can and cannot be released. We are going to take a second here and do our paid sponsor spots. Really exciting. We got some companies that have hopped on board, and the first one is HelloFresh. And so with HelloFresh, you get this farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You don't have to worry about going to the grocery store. You can count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And I can't tell you how happy I was to see that on my doorstep yesterday. We get to try it.
Yeah. I was like, it's Christmas morning all over again. The big green box on my porch. We had the melty Monterey Jack hamburger. It was so good. The garlic mayonnaise was amazing. I don't know about you, but I'd never had garlic with mayo before, but it was really good. The meat was so fresh. We had potatoes and onions. With the potatoes, we did potato wedges and they were delicious. So now we don't have to stand in a grocery line and go through the grocery store picking out groceries.
Yeah, and I tell you, we were looking through, we're actually trying the pork tenderloin tonight. I wanted to do the hamburgers, and I said, well, I'll have to go to the store and get buns. I opened the bag that it comes with. Buns are in there, everything. Can't
Yeah,
wait
it
to
was
try it
good.
tonight because, you know, I'm cooking challenged. So I have kids to still feed. So this is perfect. Like, it's
Yeah.
perfect for me.
I can't wait to try the rest of these meals this weekend and let you know how they come out. We can order it online and it's delivered to our front door. And you can too if you go to HelloFresh.com/whattheworld16 and use code whattheworld16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/whattheworld16 and use the code whattheworld16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts.
It's officially 2022, and now's the time to set your wellness routine into action and prioritize your health. Care of allows your vitamin routine to be personal, easy, effective, and constantly evolving. Stay on track with your health goals this new year thanks to Care of's daily vitamin packs that make organization and your resolution easy to stick to every day. Care of is a subscription service that ships high quality, personalized vitamins and powders conveniently to your door every month. In a short, in-depth quiz about your health goals and lifestyle, and get personalized, tailored recommendations based on your answers. You can stick with what Care of recommends or change up your pack at any time. Care of's products are made from good for you, clean ingredients that are backed by the latest science and research, so you can feel good about what's going on in your body.
We want to start the year off trying to get healthier. So with Care of, we feel we can get started on the right foot this year. When you go online to take the quiz, it's 5 minutes or less. It's quick. The questions help them know what vitamins you need, tailored to what you need. You can also pick what vitamins you want to order. Their website is well designed, smooth, easy to look at, very informative. The packets that you'll receive in the mail with your vitamins are cute and in one place. I don't know about you, but I got a bunch of bottles sitting around. The vitamins recommended for us were multivitamin plus iron, vitamin C, fish oil, and a probiotic blend. With Care of, it feels like a partnership. You know your body, and Care of knows the science. With Care of, we are able to get the necessary vitamins and supplements that we need to be healthier in 2022, and so can you. For 50% off your first Care of order, go to takecareof.com and enter code WhatTheWorld50. Again, for 50% off your first order, go to takecareof.com and enter code WhatTheWorld50.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And then Ratcliffe states that Robbins and Pratt felt comfortable enough to share details regarding their personal lives that related to Gabby and Brian's relationship and the incident. So Robbins knew his body cam was on and felt comfortable enough to share generic details. It would be difficult to say that he unreasonably violated his wife's privacy or sense of dignity unless a complaint was made by Officer Robbins' wife herself. And my point on this is immediately they start blaming as if Gabby's got something wrong with her. Like she's got anxiety, she's got depression, she's got issues. She needs to be on medication. And that's what bothered me about that was just this back and forth banter between two dudes.
Well, he gets asked by Ratcliffe if he thought, because they say that he thought it was a mental health issue. Did they suggest any kind of mental health, anything to Brian or Gabby? And he says no. Yeah. And he said it didn't, with everything that was going on, it didn't cross his mind that that's what he needed to do.
Yeah.
So, several officers discussed the legislature's intent to remove discretion from the responding officers in suspected domestic violence calls and strategize around how they can evade the imposition of legislative intent to arrest or cite suspects. So Ratcliffe states, this concern is addressed in detail later on in the report. To provide a brief response, I would disagree that the officers strategized a way around the statute. I would say the officers made a mistake by not reading the entire assault statute as well as misinterpreting the language of the statute. So he's basically saying, she's asking, did they strategize a way to not arrest either one of them? And he's saying, no, that he didn't think that. An officer appears to carefully and deliberately coach Gabby Petito to answer questions regarding intent in a matter that would allow the officer to avoid issuing her a citation or arrest. And Ratcliffe provides some statements that Pratt stated during the questioning. If you remember, he would say, how you answer this, da-da-da-da.
Right.
Remember that?
Right. Yep.
So he says, Officer Pratt tells Gabby he has a question for her and how she answered the question determined what happened next, and further states that she was the only one that could answer the question. And he says, think very hard before you answer the question. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? And Gabby answers immediately, shaking her head side to side and stating no. And he asked, what were you attempting to do? and what was the reason behind the slapping and stuff. And what were you attempting to accomplish by slapping him? And Gabby replies, I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down. And Officer Pratt then says out loud, well, it doesn't sound like to me she attempted to injure him.
Yeah, I remember that whole exchange, and I thought that was a little dangerous.
Yeah. You want to pick up right there?
If I can find where we stopped off. Pratt stated
Ratliff asked Pratt.
Oh, yeah. Ratliff asked Pratt to recall the manner in which he questioned Gabby. Pratt stated he instructed Gabby to take her time in answering, and Officer Pratt acknowledged that he could see why some people might think he coached her. And he said, I truly did not know what she was going to say next. I was afraid that she was going to say something that was going to make her go to jail. I didn't want her to go to jail, but I would have taken her to jail if she said the other thing. And I don't consider giving someone fair warning to think about their answer because it's an important question to be coaching. And Officer Pratt said, maybe I coached her into giving me an honest answer because that's what I was wanting. That's what I wanted. And honestly, that's haunted me. Her saying, I just want him to stop telling me to calm down. He says, she's little. I have daughters. I can imagine them in these situations. I can totally see one of my daughters just wanting someone to stop telling them to calm down. I believe what she said. I believed it then. I still do. Officer Pratt said he was not deliberately coaching Gabby and just wanted an honest answer. Officer Robbins was asked if he remembered this conversation, and he stated vaguely and said he only remembered Gabby being asked about the intent and denying that she was intending to hurt Brian. So an officer refers to Gabby Petito as blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who is 110 pounds dripping wet and refers to Brian Laundrie as a big, tough, strong guy who can defend himself, which is not relevant evidence when evaluating the protocol for legislature mandated action in domestic violence calls. Further, it is clear why the hair and eye color of one of the subjects would be material to an analysis and may suggest the officers were operating under a confirmation bias or that they were unconsciously influenced by stereotypes about who is involved in domestic violence. So Ratcliffe states the complainant, Tanya Reeves, sent a follow-up email apologizing and stated she misattributed the blonde-haired, blue-eyed remark, which is correct. As she states in her follow-up email, the information was said by Brian, not the officers. The first part of this complaint is addressed in further detail in this report. And that is true because you can have some big macho guy who's dating a girl who's 110 pounds and she could be the aggressor and the abuser. I understand what they're saying here, but man, I have not read this until now. And I'm telling you, this bothers me.
Yeah.
So an officer makes
disparaging references. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My mouse is kind of going crazy. To the legislation relevant to this call in the presence of the subjects, claiming that he cannot treat the subjects differently because of the gender of the primary aggressor, and then proceeds to precisely do just that. Ratcliffe stated that Officer Pratt discusses with Brian, Gabby, and the other officers the lack of discretion in these cases. When describing this to Brian and Gabby, he explains it doesn't matter the gender and or the size of whoever the primary aggressor is, or if the injuries are minimal. Officer Pratt states they have to treat all domestic violence assault cases the same. So Officer Pratt tells Gabby that the law doesn't allow them to treat people different, stating, even if it makes no sense, that you probably could not physically destroy this man the way he could if he attacked you. We can't treat you different. He further tells Gabby that the law was made in Utah because they don't trust the police to make good decisions. Too many cops have made bad decisions. He goes on to say that this is why they took discretion away on domestic violence cases, stating that whoever the primary aggressor is has to be charged. Officer Pratt tells Gabby, we literally have no choice. He doesn't want to press charges. We don't have any choice in this. He further states that if he has discretion, he would separate them for the night and tell them to stop hitting each other, but lawfully, I don't have that discretion here. And Ratcliffe states, while an argument could be made that his statements were disparaging, it was done in the context of trying to explain what law enforcement could and could not do. As far as the officers doing precisely what they said they couldn't do, that is explained in further detail in this report.
So the other references, the officer references a 911 call that identified Brian as pushing Gabby away from him, and then says there is a second witness who they haven't spoken with yet, but may corroborate this claim. And this is important. The 911 call of the second witness, in fact, claims Brian Laundrie slapped Gabby. Should the officer have obtained this statement from the second witness or listened to the 911 call before determining who was the primary aggressor?
That would have been a game changer. I'm just curious, you've read, have you got to any point where they point fingers at where the communication breakdown went?
Not yet. So Ratcliffe states here, there was only one 911 call in reference to this incident. That caller reported Brian slapping Gabby. The other witness was found on scene at the Moonflower and provided a verbal and written statement later on. This issue is addressed in more detail later on the report, but in short, the answer would be yes, the officer should have obtained a statement from the 911 caller before making a final determination if it was possible for them to do so. So I think there, if you have that statement, you can say, Gabby, someone saw him hitting you. Even though she said she hit him first, I think it'll be a little bit different.
It would be a lot different because her pushing him is very different than him slapping her.
Yeah.
That's two totally different levels of escalation to me.
Yeah.
And this has to be so hard for her family.
Yeah.
To read this, and essentially they're still blaming her.
Yeah. So the officers twisted themselves into knots trying to find a way to avoid effecting an arrest or citation because of their sympathy for this couple and their assessment that no one was actually in danger, which is precisely what the legislature attempted to curtail, substituting the judgment of the officers for the mandates of the legislation. So Ratcliffe states here, he believes it is clear from the body-worn camera footage that stating the officers twisted themselves into knots trying to find a way to avoid effecting an arrest is a gross mischaracterization of what actually happened. He also states that he feels that the officers were sympathetic and showed the couple empathy, which undoubtedly led Pratt second-guessing himself, despite the fact that he said multiple times would need to happen. What would need to happen? Pratt resorted to calling a supervisor and ended up rereading the assault statute. And they break that down a lot, wording-wise. From there, the statute is not fully read, and what was read was misinterpreted, which led to not arresting anyone in this incident. They got hung up on intent to harm.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you see that in the video.
Yeah.
And I understand that they, with this communication breakdown and them not knowing the full story of what witnesses saw, I do understand they were trying not to arrest Gabby. And I understand in that moment why, with what information they had to go on, they were just trying, she was upset. Now, I've heard, and I haven't seen it, but I haven't looked, that she gave the universal hand signal in that video.
Yeah, I haven't.
I do understand that they just didn't want to arrest her. I get that.
Yeah.
But they just didn't know at the time that he was slapping her.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, you're going to see in the next couple episodes what he felt, because you get the interview. You get Ratcliffe interviewing the officers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's what you get is, well, why did you do this? And what did you believe? And he says he thought it would cause more harm to Gabby if they arrested her.
I mean, sometimes that is the case.
Yeah. So something eluded them that Brian could be the aggressor. If you make that statement, you had a little feeling of he could possibly be angry at her, or you know what I mean? So the officer concluded in his report that he did not believe the incident rose to the level of domestic assault so much as a mental health crisis. Have officers received sufficient training in mental illness and domestic violence to accurately make that determination. And Ratcliffe states he was unable to answer this question in full, but asked both officers for an explanation into why they categorized this incident in such a way. Their responses are documented later on in this report, and that's the part I was telling you about.
Yeah. Do you want to stop here?
That's fine with me, because this is probably going to be 2 more episodes.
Yeah, and I kind of want to take our time with it, just because I'm not super familiar with it. You've knocked this out of the park with your research, and I know there's so many interesting spots in here from what I've heard. So we're just gonna kind of break this into several parts, just for everybody's sake. And it's for me, it's very makes me very upset knowing in hindsight what we know. I mean, I think the sad thing and the scary thing is that when you go back and rewatch that after he murdered her, I don't really care about what happened to him, to be honest, but you see how good of an actor he was. I mean, he really convinced those officers that he's very chill. I'm cool. She was just trying to get me to pull over. She was hitting me. Yeah. And it's chilling. It's very chilling in hindsight. And I understand that these officers did not have that luxury at the time to know what was going to happen. But there's just such a breakdown that, maybe this case will change the way that this stuff is handled in the future and save a bunch more lives.
Yeah. I think if anything good comes out of it, this is it, that the training and all changes and what needs to happen. I'm also reading a book on domestic violence, so it brings out some points, and it's dead on at what Gabby's saying and her actions and everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's so sad. Well, guys, we will see you maybe if we don't all die from like ice exposure around here.
I'm going sledding.
I am
getting on a sled.
Look, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to FaceTime you when I'm sledding.
Yeah, do it. I'm going to video it. Yeah.
So if you guys don't hear from us, we still have our phones. We can tweet out what's going on power wise. But if Fruit Loop loses power, probably just going to wait till she gets power. Cause I don't like doing these without you.
Yeah. It's kind of boring.
It don't feel right. Like at all. So we're just gonna, maybe I wish you were here. I'd hit you right in the face with a snowball, man. All right, guys, we will see you soon. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend and take care.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.